Do you ever get this feeling in business like you're running from fire to fire and that's what you spend your day doing? I want you to know that that is completely common, and I want to tell you what to do about it. If you haven't already, go ahead, like and subscribe this channel so that you stay up to date with all the new videos that are released to help you with your small business. I remember a time in my business where I was running from fire to fire. It's what I felt like I did all day, every day. And I had these big dreams for my business. I wanted to grow and I wanted to do new things. And it was so hard because every single day I felt almost a step further from those goals. It was one more day that I wasn't working on what I really thought I needed to be working on to change things. And at the same time, I also felt like there wasn't really a way out. Right? To make things better meant I needed time. And I want to tell you that those feelings are so normal. I've worked with clients who have felt the exact same way. I have friends who own businesses that felt the exact same way. And there was some comfort in knowing like, hey, okay, this is common. We all feel this. And people have pushed past this. So while it doesn't feel like there's an answer right there, right away, I know I can get through it. And that belief that there's a way was actually the very first step that has to be taken if you wanted to see anything change in your business. The belief that this is not the way it always has to be, that there's a possibility that it will get better. Because until you believe it can be, you're not going to be looking for any sort of solutions. So if you felt any of those things that like, oh, just the exhaustion that can come with running from fire to fire every day and feeling like all you do is put out problems, and kind of the discouragement, if I'm being honest, the discouragement that I felt and that I'm sure that you feel too, please open yourself up to the possibility that it doesn't have to be this way. So what do you want to do about it? Okay, so here's the thing. Every single business has some component of dealing with what is happening right now, the short term, and planning for the future, the long term. And here's what most people just don't bluntly tell you. If you looked at the patterns, you'd probably see it, but you don't have time to do this pattern searching, and neither did I. So I'm just going to tell it to you now. When you're new in business, there is a lot that goes into looking at the short term, right? We aren't necessarily thinking what's going to happen 10 years. The survival of your business is right now. You need to be looking at exactly what is happening in this moment over the next couple months, fairly short term period. And as your business grows and as you get systems in place and all these things that happen, sort of like a teenager maturing into an adult, all of a sudden there is going to be a shift. And there has to be a shift. Sometimes it'll come naturally and other times you'll have to put more effort into it. But what's going to happen is the tables will turn. So instead of looking so much on the immediate now, when you have a business that's more established and 5 years in, you're going to be doing a lot more of that future thinking, longevity. So at the start of your business, you're probably going to be about 80 to 90% of like what's happening within the next 3 to 4 months. And the rest of it's going to be long term, which probably means that you're maybe at best thinking of like jotting things down, like, oh, I've got this idea, and you make a note to yourself and you're putting it in a notebook and not looking at it. But as we move through the different stages of business and as you feel more confident about your customers, that I promise that will shift. So if you want to make this, if you're not in a place right now where you're like, I really feel good about this, the very first step is creating capacity to do some of that vision casting. And this is one of the hardest parts, because when there is pressure, when it feels like there's a fire, it is very, very, very difficult to feel like it's okay to step back. But sometimes we have to figure out what fires we can let burn. So if you're a solopreneur, that may mean looking at your to-do list and asking yourself truly what can wait. If you have a team, what I want to encourage you is to ask the team to help out. Ask the team to do their job. And what I'm going to tell you is it's so common in business to say as the owner, like, I can do it faster, I do it more accurately. But if you have that thinking, what I promise you is what got you here, that way of thinking, is not going to get you to where you want to go. It is not going to be the way of thinking that gets you into that expansion and those goals where you really do have to trust in your team. So asking yourself, would it be okay for one of these items on my to-do list to sit with a team member? Can they help me out? So even if it's not going to be perfect or as good as I do, what is not going to be detrimental to the business and could be delivered by somebody else or done by somebody else? And slowly creating that capacity. The other thing is purposefully using the time that you create, because the funny thing about time is things take as long as you allow them to take. And as soon as you start all of a sudden creating capacity, I bet you your first instinct is going to be to look down at your to-do list and be like, okay, well, I've crossed this one off, but now I'm going to go on to this one. And instead of doing that, I want you to be purposeful about using that time to do that forward thinking, right? Maybe at this stage of business, if you're smaller, maybe it's thinking about hiring a team member that creates capacity in the long term. Really thinking about what the next right step is for your business to create the capacity to grow and hit those goals that you want to hit. Ultimately, what you've learned today is two things. One, it is completely normal, especially early in business, to feel like you're fighting the fires. It's important that you grow so that as your business gets along and as it develops, that you're doing more forward thinking instead of the immediate thinking. And to get there, you've also learned that you need to create capacity in your schedule. You need to review what's on your plate. Do you need to be doing it? Can it be eliminated, delegated? Can somebody else on the team do this for you? And really using the time that you've created to get towards that future thinking. I promise you, it gets easier as you do it. The first time is going to be pretty nerve-wracking. You're wondering if it's going to be the end of your business, but I promise you it won't be. I think you've put in the effort to create systems and build your team up in a way that it's not going to burn down with one small decision. And I know that by taking these small steps every day, it's just going to get a little bit easier. And one day you're going to look back and your entire way of being in your business is going to be so different when you go from that problem-solving, firefighting, to a leader who's enabling all of the other people on the team to really come together to serve your customers and your clients well. I just can't wait to see you get there. I would love to hear your feedback. Tell me about your wins. DM me on social and I'd love to chat.